Good evening. Welcome to Spirituality Gone Wild. I'm Debbie G, and this is Scott Catamas, and we are here for a really super special show tonight. And I'm going to hand it over to Scott because he's going to talk a little bit real quick about what we're going to be discussing and viewing.
So, have you ever been in a relationship where you are just totally so frustrated because that person is always playing victim? Or have you been in a relationship where you feel like nobody understands me and life is really my own lover, my own friends don't get me? Or have you been in a relationship where you go, oh my God, if I can just fix this person, if I can just help this person, they're going to be so much better. I'm going to change this person's life. Well, if you've ever been in a relationship like that, and let's face it, almost all of us have, we've fallen into the victim-rescuer-perpetrator triangle, which is a very common, I've done it recently, it's a very common codependent triangle. Doesn't mean you're bad or wrong, but it's a common trap we can fall into. So tonight we're going to talk about some of the dynamics of that trap and how to shift from victim to victor, from a rescuer to a caregiver, and from a perpetrator to a peaceful warrior. We're going to show you how to do that. So we're going to start by showing a really cool little video. And it's 5 minutes long. And I encourage all of you to really watch this, drop in with us. And Debbie and I will be back in 5 minutes to take your questions and to answer
anything that might come up. Is that working for you? And hold on here, Scott. We've got that.
It's not up?
I think the wrong one. There we go. It's up. You got it. You just have to press play.
Okay. Let me go back to where it is. Let me do this. Let me take it back to the beginning. Okay.
Go back to the screen it was on real quick. Or actually, Scott, I've got it up and ready. I can go ahead and cue it up right now. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Yay. I just don't know if we have sound. Oh, shoot. I don't think there's sound.
Damn.
That's
all right.
Okay. You know what? Let me just bring it on
You got it
here.
Okay, let me go in and cancel it.
Okay. Not a worry. Okay. All right, everybody. So we're going to watch the drama angle. Here we go.
Between people, often in dramatic or intense relationships or interaction. And it was called Stephen Cartman in 1968. And it involves three, one that's kind of called a one-down, and two that are called one-up roles. The three roles are the victim, the rescuer, really helps to identify how we should be resolving potentially destructive interactions that are quite draining on our energy. So let's start with the victim role. It's quite self-explanatory. It's the person and powerless, like they can never cut a break or they can never get ahead in life. They often think things like, this always happens to me. Another role in this drama triangle is the rescuer. And this person is someone who takes responsibility for other people's problems, and they kind of make it their own problem. But at the same time, they don't realize which could in fact be a complete mess. And they'll see people who might be going through a difficult time and think, oh, look at that person. They need help. I'm nice, so I'll help them. Or maybe something a bit more parental, like if that person did what I said.
Victim-Rescuer.
And I think the dynamic that we often see play out between the victim and the rescuer is something that we movies and romantic comedies all the time. It's something that we almost think, but it really is an unhealthy interaction. So the third role in this triangle is a persecutor. This is a person who is frustrated. They're kind of self-righteous and a bit of a bully. Things like, they're wrong and I'm right, and they need to do what I say, or that person will get what. Another thing that's really important to recognize about this triangle is that each of these roles move between each other. So, can become the persecutor, or the persecutor can become the victim, or the victim can become the persecutor. So they all kind of move around. Another concept that's really important to understand when talking about the drama triangle is this idea of the starting gate. We tend to have this one role that we most naturally sort of enter into. For instance, one person might often go straight to the victim role, where someone else might jump into the. And the other thing that's really interesting about this, our starting gate role sort of is part of what we see as our own identity. And like I said before, we share that. All end up in the victim role, feeling powerful and able to do anything. And that's why it's really important to work out strategies for how to get out of this triangle. So I guess that brings me to the next question. How do we get out of this drama triangle? So let's take it by looking at each role again. So in the one down victim role, become a survivor. In order to do this, we need to think like a problem solver and ask ourselves questions like, what do I want? And what steps can I take to get what I want? Another useful thing to do is to reflect on the good things that are going our way. So we can make a calendar or a diary, ask ourselves questions like, what are 3 things that I'm grateful for today? Each week, we could ask ourselves, what did I achieve this week? So let's move on to the rescuer role again. If this is where you tend to find yourself sitting, you need to think of yourself as a teacher or a coach rather than as a rescuer. You need to remember the goal of man to fish. So you need to support and encourage the person in ways to identify and solve, rather than rushing in to solve it for them. Like, what is it that you want to see happen in this situation, or what do you think you can do to change this? Also, you need to make sure that you set boundaries. Setting boundaries around the time that you're able to listen to the person and letting them know that is really important. In some ways, it's a similar situation with the starting gate persecutor, who, like the rescuer, puts themselves in this sort of powerful position. The difference is that you need to become a challenger. You need to be firm but fair in your approach to people. And to help the person recognize how you're feeling, you need to sort of address the consequences of their actions and set boundaries. And say something like, if you keep your side of the agreement, I can keep mine. As with the rescuer, it's important to remember to set these boundaries and recognize that this isn't your problem. But by freeing ourselves from this drama triangle, we are able to have happier, healthier relationships with people. We won't feel so drained and powerless. And we'll also be able to identify toxic relationships, in fact, be better off without.
No.
That is great. Jazzy's just like all about it, right?
Right. It's about the
Okay.
moment it just ended, boom, she had to give a bark.
That was brilliant.
Yeah,
I
first of all,
that.
I love that video. It's really well done, really well done. And so I just want to invite everybody who's watching, whether you're watching us live, or I recognize that most people who watch might be watching a video play, but would love to see you put into the chat box which of those roles you are most likely to remember. The starting gate. What's your starting gate? Do you usually start as a victim, a rescuer, or a perpetrator? And make it, and I really want to say that none of them are good or bad. None of them are right or wrong. We all have done all three. So the purpose of all of this is for us to self-reflect and to raise our consciousness to get clear on, okay, who am I and what am I likely to do? And Debbie, I've got to get my dog for a second, who's like getting into something he shouldn't be getting into. And I'd love to hear where you usually start, then I'll come back. Hey, no.
Where I usually start, I think I jump into rescuer because that was my codependent skill, and so I've shifted to mentor. But I've been all three for sure, without a doubt. I have been all three. But yeah, I definitely start rescuer. I want to fix things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's like I would say today I'm getting clearer on what that looks like. Using a lot to show up with, but I can still find myself doing it. But Scott, I've been all three.
Yeah. So I was born on Christmas Day. So I really grew up with the Messiah complex and rescuer. And look at what I do for a living. I spend my life supporting people and helping people to enjoy life and have better relationships. But I always have to watch that part of me that wants to rescue, that wants to fix. It's a constant challenge. And one of the things and I'm imagining the majority of people watching us start off as rescuers, because we attract a lot of caregivers and a lot of people that really want to make the world a better place. The irony is that when we are coming in as rescuer, and there's a sense of superiority, a sense of I have it together and I'm going to help you because I'm superior to you, right? Which can be in that thinking. It can be subtle, but that can be in there. We actually then become the perpetrator, because anytime someone perceives that we're better than they are, that we think we're better than they are, that we know more, then they start feeling judged. And the moment they feel judged, we're no longer the rescuer, we're the perpetrator.
Wow.
Yeah. and especially people who are, another thing I'll say is that, and see who out there can relate to this, when you're with someone who's really locked into victim and they believe they have to play victim to get their needs met. I can't get my needs met unless you know how much I'm suffering. Then often we start as the rescuer, but again, we become the perpetrator, because it's like, okay, you hurt me, therefore you owe me. And then when we, the rescuer, begin to set boundaries, then again, the person who's really in victim will start accusing us of abandoning them, rejecting them, not caring about them, especially if they've become dependent on us, right? So for those of us that are rescuers, you do not want someone to become dependent on you. That's unhealthy. And I've definitely, early in my life especially, wanted people to be dependent on me, because then I felt special, then I felt needed, then I felt valuable, right? So I'm curious how this is landing for people, and for you too, Debbie.
Yeah. Hello, everybody who's on right now. Ellie, Mullenbet, hi, you guys. And anybody on the watch parties, jump over to Spirituality Gone Wild itself so I can see your comments, because that's the unfortunate part of watch parties. I can't see your comments. So till afterwards. How it sits with me is it makes me it just really is interesting how that I've been in so many of those spaces, like in so many different relationships. And now it just is mind-boggling, actually, to soak it in. I'm going to just sit with it for a couple of minutes there. That's deep, deep stuff.
So while you sit with it, I'm going to make an attempt to share a screen, which hopefully people will be able to see. Is that showing up for us, Debbie? Are people seeing that?
Bring it up, and here we go.
Yeah. So it's there. So let's just all look at this. You know, this is the triangle. And again, all three of us have done all three. But just anytime we're like, oh my God, poor me, I feel helpless, I feel hopeless, which is a terrible very uncomfortable place to be. And again, empathy for anyone who is feeling that way. We're not making you wrong. But if you are in that place where life is so hard, or a relationship is so hard, or a part of your life is so hard, that you do feel sorry for yourself, then you're falling into the consciousness of a victim. And we've all done that. We've all been there. And it's important to have empathy for when people are feeling helpless. It's a terrible, terrible feeling. Likewise, let's take a look to the left. You know, Debbie and I talked about how we come in as the rescuer. Here I come to save the day. Remember Minnie Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's a good intention there. We really want to help somebody. But when we fall into the illusion that I can fix you, I can save you, I've gone too far. I'm now in a rescuer way of thinking, which is not healthy. And then most of us aren't aware of when we become a perpetrator, because most of us see ourselves as spiritual people. Maybe we're spiritual who've gone wild, but we're still spiritual and we're good people. But anytime we think somebody is doing something that's bad or stupid or wrong, we are in perpetrator consciousness. So anytime you're holding a judgment, whether it's of Donald Trump or your spouse, whether it's, you know, a political figure or a family member, anytime we have a judgment of somebody, we've fallen into the role of perpetrator. So these are the three things, and we can rotate around pretty quickly. You know, if I'm a victim and you don't give me what I want and I think you're abandoning me, I've become a perpetrator, right? If I think I'm the rescuer and, you know, you're kind of less than I am, you're more unfortunate, so I'm going to save you or fix you, I've become a perpetrator. So that's what we're working with. In a moment, we're going to take a look at the alternative.
So I'd like to say that, like, this goes back, Scott, to the first time when I got married, when I was 18 years old and met Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I knew he had a problem. I knew he had a lot of stuff going on, and I knew I could fix it.
Yep.
I could love him enough, and I was going to fix him. Oh, well, that didn't work out very well. And since I did get two great kids, Wayne and I wound up being really, really close. And so that was beautiful, you know, and we miss him terribly. But then the second time around, guess what?
What?
Same thing. He's great in all of these facets, in all of these ways, but I can fix him. And he would be so great, but he will be after I'm done teaching him. Oh my gosh, yeah. You know what, Scott? Guess what? Yeah. That didn't work. Didn't work.
Listen, I relate. I was in a relationship that started in 1996 and ended in 2001 with somebody who was a really significant addict. And she would go from one addiction to the next. And beautiful young woman, angelic, believed could save her, and that I would be the person who would get her off whatever she was into, addiction. But really, I more often enabled the addiction than supported her really getting proper recovery. And that relationship did not end well. It ended terribly, and with a lot of pain for everybody involved. And I paid a big, big price, and so did she. And conversely, when I look at my relationship with my wife who passed away, there's nothing, she didn't need to be saved. She didn't need to be rescued. The nature of our relationship was not me fixing her or rescuing her. The nature was she was a strong, powerful woman. I was a strong, powerful man, and we came together in that way. And we had our issues, you know, but there was no relation, there was no victim, perpetrator, rescuer part of that equation. And so as a result, it was overall a healthy marriage.
I think, and I love that. Let's talk about how did you start shifting that, Scott? Because all of this is the hope here, and here's the exciting news for everybody who's been watching this so far and going, "Oh boy, I resonate with this." And you're just sitting there like, "Oh dear Lord." Well, guess what? There's answers and there's solutions. Yay!
So there we go. I'm bringing up the solution, the answer. And it's going from codependence or unhealthy codependence into interdependence. And listen, we do need each other. We all are interdependent. Right now, I need Debbie to set up SteamYard and to introduce me to her spirituality gone wild crowd. And she needs me to bring some good juju in. And we're interdependent, right? We're supporting each other. We're supporting each other's mutual interests. So in this little triangle, and I want to acknowledge Emily Oram, because it's Emily. When she and I were partnering, we partnered together for 5 years. And Emily actually created this. So a big hats off to Emily. And Emily is also somebody that I was in a relationship with who did not need to be rescued. That's my dog growling at himself. He's looking into the mirror and seeing his own reflection. And boy, we could do a whole story about when we bark at ourselves, can't we? So we want to... We want to go from being victim to victor, from I'm hopeless to I am empowered. How can we create empowerment? And Debbie, while I grab my dog and kind of, so she's not distracted, honey, you've distracted all the people on Facebook land. So think about that. When you're playing victim, when do you go, how can you shift from feeling helpless to feeling empowered? And a trick is whatever it is you're longing for, more respect, more financial support, more love. Remember times when you had that. Remember times when you had it. We focus on the deficiency of what we don't have, get into the actual universal human need, the universal human value, and then remember when you have had that. Okay? Very, very important. Mm-hmm. To go from rescuer, we want to go to caregiver. And instead of it being, here I come to save the day, we start with, I love and honor myself fully. Because often we're seeking to rescue someone else, but we actually have an emptiness inside of ourselves. Well, if I fix you, then you'll love me the way I want to be loved. If I fix you, then you'll be what I need you to be. If we love and honor ourselves fully, we don't need to fix or save anybody in order to be whole or feel complete. So then we're coming from a cleaner place when we're offering support. And then the third one, from being the perpetrator, you're bad, you're stupid, you're wrong. I am compassion in action, leading with compassion, but also being active, right? It's like a perpetrator usually is very dynamic and active, but they're active with their judgment. We want to be active with our compassion. So these are the ways we can shift out of that unhealthy triangle into a much healthier way of being. Debbie, what do you think?
Well, I love that, because I love, first off, what you shared, and that it can really slip into remembering when we have that thing that we are not focusing on the lack, but focusing on our attitude for the spaces we've been in, and remembering that with joy. And the other part of it is just shifting our perspective. So shifting our perspective, when I'm getting in victim mode, it's because I took stuff for granted. I'm forgetting that I've always been taken care of up to now. And also, to be straight, if I have some external circumstances going on and I'm in victim, it's because I'm letting those circumstances prove as evidence for me to accentuate an old belief that I'm not worthy and I'm not deserving, and and this type of thing. And so the reality for me now is I'm able to see this, and I know that it's time for me to get into gratitude. If I am whining, complaining, and yada yada doing that, I'm certainly not being grateful for who is in my life right now, for the moment that I'm in, for the fact that I'm here, I'm breathing, things are really okay. Victim mode that I would get into, I could have won Grammys and Emmys, Scott, for my ability to be a codependent. And every once in a while, I get a straggler that pops its rearing little head on, But the victim, when I've been known to get really good into victim mode here and there, just because it was an old habit. And I guess I had to revisit the old habit to see if it was still not working. It still wasn't working.
Yeah. So thank you. First of all, thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability. And yeah, it's constant. I mean, I still have to keep looking and making sure I'm trying to fix somebody right now, especially because I get paid to help people. And so
Yeah.
learning how to just listen and how to support people to find the answers within themselves. And that's a big difference between traditional therapy and love coaching. In traditional therapy, those therapists have spent many, many years studying how to diagnose, evaluate, and judge what's wrong with somebody. And when Debbie or I are doing our form of coaching, we're not here to judge or diagnose or evaluate anybody. We don't think there's anything wrong with anyone. We're here to help them remember their divinity and to remember what's wonderful about them, and to help them remember that they actually have all the answers they need inside of themselves. But it's a constant practice to remember, because we want to jump and make it better, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just, come on. I love the fact that, well, Scott has taught us, look at our beautiful, compassionate hearts, because really it comes from the right place. It just wasn't executed quite in a way that was the highest good of everybody involved. Our hearts were always there, their compassion to want to make it better, just that nurturing of another human being. But the execution of it is the shift and how that you're doing that. And there's a big difference between wanting to go in and fix them, right or wrong. You're wrong, and you need to do it this way, and I need to fix you. And if you don't do it the way that I just said I need to fix you, then now I'm going to turn to the perpetrator and I'm going to hate you.
Yeah. And sometimes it's more subtle. Anytime we think we know what's best for another person, take a breath and recognize that's an opinion that we have. It may or may not be true. Right? I'm having an opinion. I'm having a judgment. I'm having a projection about you right now. But so often we fall into, oh no, you need to read this book. Oh, you've got to leave that guy. No, you've got to stop drinking. No, you've got to, do this. You got to do that. And we really think we're right, but we're now self-righteous. We're now in self-righteousness. Now, what we can say, I so wish you'd stop drinking, because when you drink too much, it's uncomfortable to be with you. Or, I really am concerned about your relationship with this person. It seems like it's causing a lot of stress for you, and I'm concerned. That's cool. But not telling somebody, you got to do this, you got to do that, because I know it's best for you. None of us, at least as adults, know what's best for another person. Parents with children, of course, fair enough. But once we're adults, we're free, sovereign people.
Well, Scott, what's interesting is here's a question I asked myself. why am I focusing on that person in the first
Mm,
place?
mm,
Why am I over ultra obsessed about, why am I sitting around much energy into what another human being is or isn't doing? And where is it, where am I using it as a possible distraction from
mm,
dealing with my own shit? And how can I possibly look at this differently? Because the fact is, it comes from me. It's not really, I don't care if I don't care who,
mm,
what it is. It's really, if I'm really like ultra focused on their stuff, I'm really must be, I'm hiding from my own stuff. And that's just what's real in my own life, or not, maybe not today, but where I've been. And that's
yeah.
as honest as I can possibly tell you guys that it is. I bet you that there's some of you out there that have felt this, that have, you're looking at, well, it's my daughter, it's my brother, it's my husband, it's my son, it's my whoever. Is question yourself why you're, because you're the common denominator in our own life. You're the one constant. So if you're like, might want to take a step back and think about that. And Scott's giving you the tools right now. These tools are to help you shift the old patterns that weren't working at all.
Thank you for that,
Not that
Debbie.
there's
Thank
anything
you.
wrong with them either. But
No.
yes, you had another screen to share too, don't
Nope, nope. We've done the 2 screen shares that we have.
you?
Um,
Okay.
but but I just want to say for a minute again, we all fall into these traps. I still do, right? And I've been teaching this stuff for a long time. So it's there's such a cultural indoctrination to play victim or rescuer or to go into judgment, right? And so it's a constant practice. It's like, eating healthy is a practice, doing yoga is a practice, doing compassionate communication is a practice. And
Yeah.
to avoid this codependent triangle and to choose the interdependent triangle, again, it's a practice. And it's not like a light switch you just turn on and now it's handled. We have to become aware of it and keep asking, oh, wow, there I go. I just went into thinking this person was wrong. I'm playing perpetrator right now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm feeling sorry for myself and hoping that by telling somebody how much pain I'm in, I'm going to get more love, more affection, more attention. I'm playing victim. Right. So just noticing these things, is the first step. And then memorizing, okay, what's the positive affirmations? That's why I will bring up that screen again, just to show people, these beautiful, beautiful affirmations that are the alternatives. Again, if we're playing victim, I am empowered. How can I feel empowered? How can I empower myself right now? If we're in
I love
judgment,
that.
how can I shift into compassion in action? How can I go from being judgmental into being a peaceful warrior? And for most of us watching, when we think we're in rescuer, before I fix somebody else, I love and I honor myself fully. I invite anybody watching, whether
I
you're
love
watching
it.
live or the replay, write these down. Write these down. And we'll post them also. We'll post them in the watch parties and in the places where this is.
That is, I honestly, this is the best. I am enjoying this so much tonight, Scott, because it is such a great, it's such a great refresher for
Mm.
everybody, for me, because it's like, it is a practice. And what if, and when you don't have, like, let's say you don't have anything currently going on and to practice with, you've got a constant, this is definitely practice. And I love that you brought that up, because it's not, your life can be magical, but you are definitely practicing. Compassionate communication
Yeah.
is such a practice. Scott, don't I'm pretty sure I'll be practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing until I'm not here on Earth. I don't know that there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. That's kind of the cool part about compassionate communication is there's so many layers to it, and because it all is like with whoever the person that you're working with, and the exchanges and stuff. So it's like there's so many different layers to it, and I can't wait until I front my belt and do.
You know, thank you. There's a popular notion that mastery in any field, carpentry, music, filmmaking, requires at least 10,000 hours of practice. I remember many, many years ago at the Academy Awards, they gave an honorary Oscar to Akira Kurosawa, who is regarded as Japan's greatest filmmaker. He was 80 years old when they gave him this award. And it was George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Francis Ford Coppola all on stage at the same time, the three of them giving this guy an award. And all three, at the time, three of America's greatest filmmakers, all saying, your movies have inspired us. Star Wars was inspired by, what you did. And Kurosawa gets this award and very humbly says, thank you. I've been making movies for 50 years, and I truly believe I'm just beginning to really understand how to make a good movie. Think about that. Think about that human. And he wasn't, it was real. I mean, it was like, listen, I'm telling the story 10 years later. It stuck with me. I mean, this guy's getting like an amazing award. He's 80 years old. He's like revered as a great filmmaker. But in his world, after 50 years, I'm just really beginning to get it. And you know what? It's like that with anything significant. Now, that doesn't mean you don't celebrate your first day, and every day celebrate your accomplishments. Celebrate how you practiced compassionate communication. Celebrate how you slow down and go, okay, I really don't want to play perpetrator right now. I'm gonna drop into being a peaceful warrior. Celebrate every day that you do it. Congratulations. Awesome. And we keep practicing and we keep learning. And sometimes we slip because we're human.
And I love, and you know what I love about when we slip is that we are perfectly human. But when we lose, when we Scott, I heard something from Kyle Cease one time, and I'll never forget it. He says, I hope I screw this up. And then his book, and the reason why is because we are going to mess up, because we are perfectly human. And so one of the things I love so much, Scott, is that you give us permission to be ourselves, and in its fullest capacity. That's what Scott does. He had the Messiah complex for a reason, and not just because he was born Christmas Day. Scott working with and being his your beautiful energy in this beautiful receiving of so much wisdom. I mean, you are spectacular. This is just, I can't even get over the practice. You make it, you give us this permission, you reconnect us with our soul, the first time we ever spoke or we had a session together, you took me on this meditation where to reconnect with me because I had been so disconnected from childhood trauma. So I was in freeze and disconnect totally. And it's taken a couple of years to completely work through. Well, I don't even know if it's complete. I'm just going to say to get to where I'm at right now and not put anything else to it. So one of the things I appreciate is that Scott's willing to come on here after a whole day in sessions, and you guys to appreciate Scott with me, come on to just simply share these tools with you in hopes that you can see that you can make different choices and perspectives on how that you're addressing and responding to certain situations. So thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm really taking all that in. It's humbling. And thank you. And just a reminder, we are spiritual beings, but we are having a human experience. And we are in animal bodies. And we're lost often in the illusion of separation. And it's hard. Being a human being is hard. And because I do spend my day working with people, and usually the people I'm working with are struggling. They're struggling in their marriage. They're struggling in their relationship. They're struggling with maybe a terminal disease. And it just reminds me of how incredibly difficult it is to be a human being. It's really, really hard. And our relationships are really, truly where the rubber meets the road. You know, what we all have in common is that we want better relationships, and that our relationships serve as sacred mirrors. Now, right now, I lucked out. Debbie reflected her, some beautiful ways that she sees me, and it feels awesome. Thank you, Debbie. And all of us also experience certain relationships. It might be a judgmental father. It might be an angry ex-wife or lover or husband. It might be a rebellious teenager. But often we have people that are important to us who reflect to us things that are difficult. You're such a control freak. You don't know anything. I don't trust you. We hear these things, and they're painful mirroring that also happens. And so if we could just remember that everybody is a mirror reflecting, and anything that person thinks about us may or may not be true, right? I will do my best to live up to what Debbie just said about me. And it's a beautiful reflection. And I have my moments where I'm not at the level that Debbie just described. And likewise, if somebody, is really turned me into an enemy image, I'm also not at that level, right? So let's not take on anybody's projection as being true, but ask, wow, why are they seeing me that way? Is there something for me to learn? Is there an area for me to grow? If it's a compliment, oh wow, this is a way that I'm being perceived. What can I do to really live at that level as often as I possibly can? And if someone's criticizing us or judging us, okay, to what degree is it their projection? Is it their stuff? And can I find any of that inside of myself? Somebody says, I don't trust you. Nobody should ever trust you. Wow, ouch. I want to be trusted. Now I can just blow it all off because they're exaggerating. They're saying nobody should ever trust me. That's not true. But can I find inside of myself, wow, what are maybe some of the choices I've made that have a consequence of damaging trust with this person or with somebody in the world? Can I find that inside of myself somewhere? And that's where the self-reflection work is so important.
I love that you brought up the self-reflection work is vital, because that's where I learned to take conscious responsibility and accountability for me, for my part in this and in this life. And let's face it, Scott, if we know we can create our own reality, then it's safe to consider that there may be something I'm doing if I see it and I'm creating it. Why am I going to? This great thing happen to me? Look what I just manifested. Oh, look at this shit thing just happened. Can you even believe it? Well,
victim.
Why right? They're both manifestations of I have. If I want to own like all these moments, but I don't want to own the because the fact is that once I did the self-reflection, started owning, it's like, wait a minute, is it possible that I might need to change this? And
Yeah.
And I love, but I also loved the idea, Scott, that do you realize how many different versions of us there are in this world?
Oh my gosh, so
How
many.
many people have ever put their eyes on you? I see you through my lens. You see me through. So on Scott version, your Scott version, your Scott,
Yeah.
and all of us. This is I could have, and we're on online like this. All the people watching us, all of you, have a different version of us. So important to do self-reflection so you really start tapping into who and not it's reflections, they're fun. But really, when you really look at your own being, then you can really get a good sense. And these tools that Scott went over tonight can help you do that, and also to live a more peaceful life. It's about de-dramatizing, sort of like decluttering.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, thank you for saying that, Debbie. And a reminder, by the way, for anybody coming in later, watching us live, go back to the beginning. Watch from the beginning. Really good beginning. Took us a moment to get the video going, but once we got it going, very good beginning. There's a practice that came to mind as you were talking, Debbie, which is when we're looking at somebody else and we're judging them, now we're in perpetrator.
Yeah.
What I found and what I do is I'll think to myself one of two things. There's God fully experiencing itself as Donald Trump, right, as an example. And because I do believe that life is existence experiencing itself as all of us, the dog, the cat, Donald Trump, Debbie, me. Or you can even take it a step further. There I am fully experiencing myself as Donald Trump, as Debbie Garcia. And that works more for people that believe in the oneness, to recognize that actually there's only one of us here. There's one unified field of ever-changing molecules that creates the experience of Debbie and the experience of Scott and the experience of Trump, right? So those are a couple of practices that are really helpful. And then if something really bothers you, and again, I'll pick on our friend, Mr. Trump. So rather than just focusing on what's wrong with Trump, which will make you crazy and angry and all that, what are you perceiving? What values are arising for you? If you're saying he's just so dishonest, okay, now let's leave Donald Trump and drop into the beauty of honesty. You have a strong value for honesty. He's just so inconsiderate. You have a strong value for consideration. He's a bigot. You have a strong value for not being racist. So that's how we work with the sacred mirror. Instead of focusing our attention on what's wrong with them, what values are they not exemplifying that are important to us? Conversely, if we think somebody's awesome, oh my God, I love Donald Trump, he's great. Okay, well, what are the things about him that you admire? He speaks his truth. You have a strong value for speaking your truth. He doesn't care what anybody says about him. You have a strong value for not caring about what other people say. So learning not to get lost on who he is or isn't, but what he represents to you, and what is that teaching you about your own values? And of course, what we really want to do is apply that to our personal relationships. Debbie Garcia meets my value for contribution because she contributes so much to so many people. She really triggers my value for kindness and most of all, gratitude. She is the gratitude queen. And even when Debbie's having a challenging time, she's grateful. She models in her being gratitude. When Debbie Garcia steps into the room, gratitude steps into the room. When you look at Debbie and you're experiencing her, you're having an opportunity to get a big download of gratitude. And I want to say Debbie's life is not easy. Debbie has challenges, and she's always grateful. And we're friends, so we talk about stuff. And even when she's talking about something that's hard, in about 5 seconds, she finds the gratitude. And it's authentic. It's not a bypass. It's authentic. So I just really want to acknowledge how much I learned about the attitude of gratitude from you, Debbie. Thank you.
Receive that fully. And I am so grateful to you right now. I'm going to do it right now. You're a million for how you see me, how you hear me, and how you teach and walk and talk and are these tools. And so I appreciate, though, the biggest part is how that you see me. And that's super awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And so what Debbie and I just modeled, we didn't talk about doing this, this is spontaneous, but take it and do this with the people that are important to you. Really, share with the people that are important to you. These are values that I see in you that inspire me. These are character strengths that I see in you that make me want to be a better man or a better woman, that make me want to be, oh yeah, I want to be more like Debbie. I want to be more grateful. So take this little practice that we did with each other spontaneously, and please apply it to the people in your life, even people that you're triggered by. Boy, the quickest way to resolve conflict is authentic appreciation. Shifting out of, what you do that drives me crazy, into, sometimes you drive me crazy, but I so admire your dedication to your family. I so respect how hard you work, whatever it might be. Right?
I love that. And we're getting up on the hour, but I wanted to play value though for a minute, because Scott's way he shows up compassionately, it meets my, but another thing, his tenderness and his soft safety meets my need for safety. And my value to just what is the value for tenderness?
The value for safety, the value for care. Yeah, we feel cared for.
Okay.
When somebody is tender with us, we feel cared for. And we all want to be cared for.
So I love that. I wanted to just play with those a little, because that was a piece that I was having a hard time. It's like it's finally clicked. That's a practice, everybody, that I really want to be mindful of. I want to pay attention to this, because this is a key in what Scott teaches. Everyone, when he was talking about where Trump was needs fit him, this was the bit that I really needed to grasp and understand. So Scott, thank you for this tonight, because this is a great practice.
Oh, my pleasure. And you know what? I'm actually going to pull something up real quickly just to share with your viewers. This will be like our last little share. And what this is it's the list of universal human needs. So let's see, where was I? Go back to StreamYard. And so when you're attracted to somebody, and there's something about them that you really like, well, it's probably one or more of the words on this list. This is the list of universal human needs. We could also call them values, desires, longings. But in essence, this is the list of life. Everything we do in our life, everything, is an attempt to get one or more of these words met in our experience. Like right now, if you're watching, maybe you're wanting to meet your need for connection or learning or making sense of life, or to learn, to know. or to be effective. I'm just looking at some of the words that might be why you're watching us tonight. And so learning to see the world through these words, this takes us out of judgment. And anytime, again, you're having a judgment of someone, which of these words are not being met by the way you're experiencing that person? He's dishonest. Okay, you have a value for honesty. He's not trustworthy. You have a value for trust and safety, right? So it's a wonderful way to self-reflect more clearly by looking, and because I got turned on to this almost 20 years ago by Marshall Rosenberg, I pretty much see the world now through feelings and needs, because that's what's real in life. What we're feeling, sad, happy, relaxed, is always real in the moment. And what we're needing, what we're longing for, what we value, that's also always real in the moment. And if anybody wants a copy of this list or of the little boxes on going from codependence to interdependence, just private message me on Facebook and I'll send you these. Also want to acknowledge our friend Paul McFarlane did give a comment back when I was talking about Akira Kurosawa. Paul, who may be still watching, said, there is no finish line. Kurosawa knew that, and I do too. And yes, Paul, you're a wise man. And he also writes, all faiths teach that we are spirit in a temporary physical form. We are wine in the wine bottle. I like that one because I tend to like wine.
That was great. Paul, I love you. Paul McFarlane is like, Paul McFarlane has the energy of cotton candy. I've told him that since that day. He just does. He has this warm, yummy, just precious energy. A darling friend, and I adore you, Mr. McFarlane. And everybody, this is just go to Scott Catamas so that you can message him and you can get everything. You can get the handouts that he was showing tonight. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see lovecoachacademy.com, and that is where that you can go and learn more about Scott and book with him privately. He does private sessions. He's been doing this a long time. If anybody wants to book Scott for a live speaking engagement or so connect with him for that as well. Okay? Because he also does that.
Thank you. And Debbie, you've got something special starting in January, right? Tell us what you've got going.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I'm doing another gratitude alchemy life experiment. So for 2020, getting into the cultivation of gratitude. And what the great part is this 21 days gets you ready to take a deeper dive. It gets you ready. Perspectives have shifted. And that's what's really cool about it. So then if you want to take, a 2 or 3 month Scott, then you're already primed and ready to take a deeper dive and start learning these tools. I will give you a little glimpse of the tools during the alchemy experiment for sure, but it takes a dedication of 2 or 3 months of working with Scott and to really start understanding them. And so that's really what I encourage everybody to do. The gratitude alchemy experiment, hit me up if you want to join it. It was awesome. You can ask our other life scientists, anybody that wants to ever just check like it in Love Coach Academy behind the scenes with Love Coach Scott, teaching about empathy and compassionate communication. You could always message me. I'll send you a link, or you can message Scott or Spirituality Gone Wild. Just get a hold of us, and then you can, because it's really super cool.
Thank you. And Debbie and I are going to be starting another course in January. So if you're interested in learning how to practice these tools of compassionate communication, private message us or send us an email at any of the ways that you just saw. Debbie, I love you so much. Thank you, everybody watching. With watch parties, we have to go back to see the comments. So I'll go back and take a look at any comments that might come in. And God bless each and every one of you. Thank you, Carolyn. I love that. Yeah, go back to the beginning because there's some really
Yeah.
cool stuff at the beginning. And look forward to our next connection. Good night, everybody.
Bye. Bye, honey.